Someone's asking how long I'm going to keep this Christmas tree up. The answer, as long as it takes. Seriously, I love the Christmas tree. I love the thought behind the Christmas tree. And until it starts shedding needles like I shed hair, it's staying. I'm here to tell you. Welcome to the very first video from Lace on Race in 2022. As always, what winds up happening is that I think that I am going to start something and then something else happens, and I've got to talk about that too. It's gonna be a lit 2022. I know I'm a little bit crazy, but here I am by myself at the Lace on Race Cafe, otherwise known more formally as the Lace on Race Center for Racial Equity. I am Lace Watkins, your chief bottle washer and executive director of the Lace on Race Cafe, here to talk about my delinquents. I had so much I wanted to talk about. Over there's a roll of dimes because we're doing the dimes and the envelope challenge. So excited. I still have not done the pièce de résistance of the series on Mary, Mary's Magnificat, Mary's Manifesto, which I'm going to do tonight. We have not started the good place, but before I do any of that, and it's all coming this week, no one's more excited about that than I am. I have to tell you about my delinquents. The delinquents which sent me this tree, the delinquents who made sure that I did not have a lonely Christmas, the delinquents who are the embodiment of Hesed. And we're going to talk about that later because one of the series that we're going to start is about Hesed, the embodiment, the ideal of Hesed, which these delinquents and miscreants do on the daily, and the anti-Hesed, what it doesn't look like, because sometimes it's as important to talk about what it doesn't look like than what it does. So I want to make sure that I'm talking about that as well. But before I get to that, I just have to brag. I have to brag. So what I did on Christmas Eve, I wasn't at the center. I was at the coronavirus house about 3 miles south of here in North Encanto, Lemon Grove. And I wrote my staff and leadership team, as well as the miscreants in training at the Lace on Race chef's table, a love letter. I want to tell you, I want to give you a taste of what I wrote to them. Some of it has changed because I did use some names, and I'm gonna kind of strip away some of the identifying details because of confidentiality. But for the most part, this is what I wrote to them, and I want to share it with you. Everyone talks about, and we're going to talk about this more too. There is so much on my phone that I want to talk about. But one of the things that we talk about when we talk about being able to foment and to encourage and to enable strong community within an online space is that a lot of people come to me and they go, Lace, it all sounds really good. But it's really not possible to make for committed, strong, durable community that actually means something and has some heft and some meat on its bones in an online space, particularly an almost exclusively online space. In my leadership team and staff and chef's table where the miscreants are in training, there is exactly one other woman who lives in San Diego with me. I had the pleasure, you'll read this, had the pleasure of having chicken soup with her at DZ Aikens in the college area just last week. And I cannot tell you, I love the soup at DZ Aikens, bar none. Love it. Love their brisket. Loved being with Dee even more. This is the first time I forgot what the soup tasted like because the abiding time with Dee was so memorable and so strong. And you better believe I exacted a promise from her that this was not going to be the last time that we shared a bowl of soup. Luckily, DZ Aikens is really close to where she works, and I know where she works, so I can just kidnap her and have soup with her anytime. And I hope no law enforcement is watching this. I will not actually kidnap Delina. I'll just use my puppy dog eyes. And she'll have soup with me. But she's the only San Diego Lace on Race leadership person here in San Diego. I want more of them. In fact, one of the things we're going to talk about, maybe not this week because there's so much on my plate, but sometime in the weeks to come, is finding an assistant / intern that could work with me here at the Lace on Race space, because I am always overwhelmed. I am always behind. There is always, for every thing I take off the list, 2 more come. And so it would be great to have someone to spend time with, to help me with videos, to help me with correspondence, and also to immerse themselves in how we do the business of Lace on Race. So going back to what people have said, and I say, oh, it's absolutely possible. I've got 13 women all across the country, one of whom is half a world away in Southeast Asia. And we know about each other's lives, and we get work done. But if you look at our Discord and at our Messenger, you would see that not a lot of grinding work gets done. No. We are here to abide. And our abiding time is as important as the program time. So yes, we talk about board creation. Yes, we talk about nonprofit governance status. Yes, we talk about merchandising. Yes, we talk about content creation and content support. But we also know what goes on when someone's cat gets harmed. We know about it. When someone's relative is having a super hard time, we know about it. And we know about the joys too. We know about the tomatoes that had a bumper crop in Pacific Northwest. We know about the Legos that a certain person from Texas loves. We know about the soup that was made in the Bay Area. We know about all of it. We know about all of it, and it all matters. These crazy-ass delinquents have stood with me. During there's no other way of putting it, during one of the worst years of my life, and I'm actually counting, when my ex-husband attempted his multiple suicide attempts because of his chronicity and his depression. 2021 was hard, y'all. Let me just, but before I keep going, let me just read parts of what I wrote to them and what I said to them in the video. Like I said, some of it's going to be truncated, and I'm going to be switching some things up in the sake of confidentiality, but this is basically what I wrote and what I said to them. I said, "Good evening, you amazing, crazy-ass delinquents. You guys are already asleep. It's already January 1st, 2022 for some of you. I'm sitting here putting some finishing touches on things that hopefully we're going to be able to upload tomorrow and Sunday and New Year's weekend. Parenthetically, it's in the pipeline. But I wanted to make sure that even if I do this, even as I do this, that you know, oh my goodness, and I had to apologize to Kelsey because she and I hate fireworks, and there were so many in North Encanto. I told them, I'm looking at my first things that I want to do in 2022, and I just had to stop. I had to stop. I mean, I thought to myself, Lace, you're biting off a whole lot this year. I had my roll of dimes at the ready. They're here now, but I had my roll of dimes at home, and I'm thinking about listening again for the 20th time, because this is the week that we are going to start season 1, episode 1 of The Good Place. No one is more excited about that than I am. And I'm going to be ready to mix it up with people when we do the podcast and the books on The Good Place that I need to finish reading, because there are a lot of commentaries, both in terms of the philosophy and the theology of The Good Place. For those of you who are at the bistro and at Chef's Table, we're going to be going a lot deeper, because by the time you're done, I want you to know more than I do about contractual ethics, actually. And I want you to be able to make the connections that are like spider webs. And also the conversation about safety that I am having with a new friend of mine, and the difference between protective boundaries and containment boundaries, and it's all going to be fodder. And I thought about all of these things, and I was looking around my living room, and I thought, this is one crowded ass living room. Why? Because every single one of my leadership team is always with me there, metaphorically, in my imagination, in my noggin. And there's room for all of us. There's room for all of us. You've got the sofa, you've got the black table, you've got those pretty chairs that nobody really sits on, you've got those barrel chairs that everyone thinks are a lot of fun. There's room for everybody. And it expands out, this metaphorical living room, to include you too. It spills into the kitchen. It spills out into the porch. There's room for all of us. And I am never alone. What that does is it allows me to think about, using my fictive imagination, think about every single one of you, not just those on my leadership team, but also all of you too. You know, I call my delinquents and miscreants and misfits. And the only reason I can get away with that is because I know that they are not. I cannot imagine a more competent group of women walking with me as we live in this space together, and our singular shared focus is the North Star, and making the North Star as accessible and as engaging and as irresistible as possible for the rest of you. You know, I cannot imagine a group of women like that. I never had that before. I mean, I had it in spells, but it wasn't durable. It wasn't something I could trust. There was always the possibility and sometimes the reality of disappointment, sometimes deep disappointment that almost landed a fatal blow, like this time almost a year ago with Annie and Chris and Holly. I cannot imagine a group of women, the ones that have stayed with me, who embody character. And like I told them, I use character in two ways. One, the fact that every woman who works for me is a woman of good character. They would go poo-poo when I say exemplary character, but they are. They are. I mean, it's great. It's great. I got lucky. I also got lucky not just with their character, but with their competence. And then, of course, they're just characters. But then again, so is their leader. We're all characters. I could not ask for a group of women who are literally the embodiment of Hesed more than y'all have been for me in 2021. And I got to tell you that a lot of 2021 wasn't fun. It wasn't easy being on my staff or on my leadership team. We're waiting for the IRS to decide if we are worth the designation. And we're going to name 11 months of deep soul searching and walking in the wilderness because of Holly and Annie and Chris. We're going to name that. But we're also, as we name that, we're going to name the other more encouraging names. Because for every woman, for every Annie and Holly and Chris and all the other women who picked up and left during that fateful February, there were others who stayed, and there are women who still stayed, even though they're silent now. These days have rolled past, and I've been reminded of that for every person who left or went dormant, there has been another person. There is a friend of mine. I'm just going to switch gears a little bit. There's a friend of mine who I think is a member of Lace on Ray. She doesn't do all the prescriptions, and we'll talk about it. We're going to call her Hannah. We're going to call her Hannah for the sake of confidentiality. And she has learned about Hesed through us. Hannah has learned about Hesed. So even though I'm still working on her, I'm going to work on her to do the prescriptions and the guidelines as posted. We have known each other for over a decade, and Hannah reached out to me this week, and I'm grateful for every moment of it. I'm grateful for all the 3 hours that gave her encouragement and strength to continue. Hannah, like I do, Hannah and I both suffer from debilitating depression, debilitating, chronic, treatment-resistant depression. We both suffer from it. And sometimes Hannah can't get out of bed, and I feel that. And sometimes Hannah can barely pick up her phone to read, but when she can, she reads us. And let me tell you something. If Hannah is the only person that Lace on Race allowed me to touch this year, count it all joy. But there have been many Hannahs. Hannah and I talked about the nature of service, because one of the saddest parts of Hannah's journey right now is that there's an open question as to whether or not Hannah will be able to work for money again. For those of us with treatment-resistant chronic depression, there are some of us who, like me, are the lucky ones, who are able to perform as the world defines performance, even when it's hard. When I turn off the cameras, or when I close my laptop after I write, or after I do an abiding time, or after I'm with my staff, sometimes it gets very dark indeed. That's not something that I've talked about a lot in the 4 years I've been bringing you Lace on Race. It's certainly not something I talked a lot about in 2021, but it is real. It is true. And I realize how lucky I am when I consider the fact that there are people in my same cohort who are not as lucky. Those for whom depression and anxiety and PTSD and all of the rest means that they can't do what's necessary. Now, I'm very lucky. In the job that you all have allowed me to have, I can work around some of my treatment-resistant chronic depression. If I can't get out of bed at 6 a.m., then I can do it at 8. If I have a sudden burst of energy, like right now at 9:44 p.m. Pacific, I can come down and I can make videos and I can write scripts. Not everybody can do that. So we talked about the nature of service, Hannah and I. We talked about what it means to not live up to the world's standard of productivity and therefore the world's standard of value. And we're not talking about someone who walked away from their night shift position at Del Taco. We're talking about not that there's anything wrong with Del Taco. If I have to close the doors of Lace on Race tomorrow, the first place I'm going to apply is Del Taco in Lemon Grove. But she was an amazing force of nature, a consultant when it came to early childhood physical fitness. She worked with different school districts. And I think about the fact that I can meet her where she is, whether or not it's 2 days after Christmas, whether or not, if she can meet me at 11 o'clock in Lemon Grove, then I can do it. If I have to go up to her in Orange County, then that's where I go. And you guys give me the freedom to be able to do that, to share my experience, strength, and hope in very concentrated ways. It's because of you. Like I said, my symptoms are not far off of Hannah's, but it's because of my leadership team, my staff, my delinquents in training, that I'm allowed to do the work in the way that I do it. Every single time Emily writes just the right comment, so I don't have to. Every time Laura tends to the website, every time Christina reminds me, you forgot to answer someone, you said you'd come back, but you didn't. Every single time Danny balances books, I have no doubt that it's all for me. And if you think for one moment that I do not see it and I'm grateful for it, try again. I'm going to be giving them individual messages, all of the staff and leadership team and delinquents in training messages about what I see in them. And they might even get a little surprise. Shh, don't tell them, don't tell them. I thought I'd get it all done during the week between Christmas and New Year's, but life gets in the way and my schedule gets pushed back. And if that means I have to bother Vicki with, you're going to have to switch up the schedule, Vicki. I just had a 3-hour abiding time. Make it work. And she makes it work. Let me tell you, there's nothing better than having these women metaphorically behind me. There's nothing better than knowing that I don't even have to look behind me. It's not just about eating the best chicken soup of my life at DZ Aikens. And by the way, it is, San Diego people, bar none. I don't want to hear it from any else of you. And the brisket sandwich. But even if it wasn't, the fact that these women are learning and living out Hesed, it's amazing. I wish all of you lived in San Diego with me. I told them we would all go to DZ Aikens and we'd take over DZ Aikens and we'd eat soup and brisket, and then we'd go to Coop's Barbecue on Lemon Grove, and then when we were done with that, we would go and get lobster rolls in Imperial Beach. Basically, it would be a working, eating weekend. And then we'd talk and laugh and abide. And then we'd come here to the center where there's room for everybody, and then we'd talk and laugh and abide. And you know, it makes me sometimes sad that we cannot do that. But you know what? I'm not that sad. I'm not that sad. I don't miss it all that much. Going back to what people talk to me about, how is it possible to have deep abiding and deep communion with women who you don't see every day, some of whom you've never seen in person at all? And I say it's really possible. Community is possible. And parenthetically, to all of you guys who are listening to me talk about the love letter that I wrote to my staff, that's for you too. A lot of times, I don't know how you can have community within this environment. Well, you have community by jumping in and becoming part of the community. It amazes me when people say that something can't be done when they haven't tried it. You don't know my character or the character of my staff and leadership team or how well the community of Lace on Race can hold you unless you test us. I don't deserve a single one of them. My leadership team, my delinquents in training, and I don't deserve a single one of you, and I get that. I'm not coming to you from a spirit of self-deprecation, but a spirit of humility, and we're going to talk about that too, by the way. The difference between self-flagellation and humility, the difference between assurance and arrogance. We're going to be talking about that. We are in for it, because this is going to be the year of candor in 88-point font. When people talk to me, and I'm doing informal consultations, not just about what we do, how the public face of Lace on Race, but how we do it and who we are when we're doing it, how the sausage is made in the back of the house. People simply can't believe it. It all has to do with Hesed. It all has to do with Hesed. If I wake up and I'm flabbergasted that they all chose me, and sometimes I do, sometimes during 2021 when it was so hard and so many of you left or so many of you sat down in the stands and so few of you came down to me, with me on the field, but they did, and they took every hit. All I can do is do my absolute best to be worthy of your trust in me. We have lost people in 2021. We lost Holly in February in a very grand fashion. And even though we have had some transitions in staff, one of the things that is constant is change, but one of the things that is also constant is consistency. And we have both a method and an ethos and a North Star that can withstand personal changes. Holly wanted us to fold and we didn't. The other women that transitioned in and out, either in 2021 or as we change board composition in 2022, it's a different vibe entirely. It's a different vibe when it's someone's time and you wish them well and you make sure that the door is open. That does mean that we do need to start identifying women who are down, who are ready to rumble in terms of leadership. There are things that we cannot do with just 15 women. We need more women. I need people in San Diego, at least one, definitely. But we also need people to start manning or womaning committees and the like. And we need you to be eager to come. And I've said this a lot. When you come to Lace on Race, I don't want you to, I gotta do Lace on Race. No, I want you eager. I get to do Lace on Race. I wonder what she's got in store for me today. I wonder what the other miscreants have on deck. Not out of obligation, not out of a sense of toxic duty. I want you to be glad to be here. I want you to be excited about the fact that you are living out North Star values every day. In the waning hours of 2021, going into 2022 now, and I'm going to get back to the list, I promise. I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to get out to the center. Then I pump out more videos and I write more scripts and then I do some abiding and you know, I do get sandwiches because, you know, gals got to eat. And then I go home because I can't have a wine cooler here. And sometimes you really want to have a wine cooler. But, you know, I see y'all in everything I do. People ask, how can you do this work alone? And my answer to them, I'm never alone. I'm seriously thinking about, you know, adding a trailer to the Santa Fe. Actually, the Santa Fe's, hold on. Santa Fe's over there. Santa Fe's over there. I'm thinking about getting a trailer for the Santa Fe so I can add people, or at least getting a Hyundai Palisade, which has 7 seats, not just 5. This table is ever expanding and magically it gets bigger and bigger and more chairs are added and more soup is made. And I think about every single one of you in 2021 and going into 2022. I don't have to think about looking back. Do I think about the women who left in 2021? I do, more than those though. And parenthetically, I hope that they found somewhere else. I hope that I'm wrong when I think that they probably haven't, because most people who leave racial justice work, particularly white people, don't find other outlets. They just stop. And it's the same thing with the women who stuck around because they still have your eyeballs. But you closed your pocketbooks. I mean, one way, and I've said this before, one way to make sure that racial justice is not fully realized is to make all the right moves and all the right gestures, but make sure that it's small enough so you can drown it in the bathtub. If not Lace on Race, then who? And no one wants to answer that question. But I do ask. Again, 2021 was one of the hardest years of my life. And I am counting some pretty dark times. I am not coming here to you from in 2018 when I started it, or in 2022 right now with rainbows coming out of my tuchus. I'm coming to you from hard experience. It's such a new thing. It's such a new thing for me to wake up, because sometimes I do. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning Pacific time, because I know it's like 8:30 in the morning on the East Coast, then it's 7:30, 6:30 as we go. And I count my chickens. I count them. And they have said to me, the delinquents have said to me, you don't have to count us. We're right here. And it's like, I know. I still count. And then I wait until it's like, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, and I count my West Coast chickens. Because so many of you did leave. And if anything, I need to apologize. And I apologize to my staff and my leadership team and the delinquents in training. And I'm going to apologize to all of you right now. And I think because so much of 2021 was spent not in fear, but on the ropes. On the ropes. I'm not on the ropes anymore. I just figured that those of you who left, those of you who are still sitting in the stands and whose purses are closed, yeah, I hope you're getting something out of it, but I need to pivot away from you. I need to pivot to the people who may, and I don't need a whole lot of you. Out of 10,000 of you, I need 400. I need 400. That's it. That's it, to be able to make a change in the world. Do I want more? Sure. Do I want each of those 400 to touch another 5 or 10? Sure, I do. But I'm not looking for paid views. I'm not looking for numbers. I would like to be able to continue doing this for a living, because the minute I have to put in the application to Del Taco and take on a second job, it's pretty much game over. But we can talk about that later. But what I am going to do is apologize for the fear of making you mad, which is why I didn't talk about money, which is why we have a $50,000 deficit. And by the way, for those of you who are pissed off about the endowment, because we were off by half. Hi, Catherine. NORAD, the woman who makes it a point to be the anti-Hesed, and we're going to be talking about her this week too. No fear, no fear. Hesed, but no fear. The endowment's pretty much gone. So if you were waiting for that, there you go. I think about the women that we touch, that we encourage, that we rise up in service to North Star ethos. And I remember saying to myself, when it really was just me, when I didn't have a group of delinquents behind me, I remember saying to myself in 2018, January 21st, 2018, almost exactly 4 years ago, I said, if I could reach one woman, then it's worth it. Then this risk that I am taking would be worth it. Well, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. For every woman who I may or may not have changed, including the women who left, I hope that they're mixing it up somewhere else. I hope that they took a little bit of us with them. And I see them sometimes on the internet, because most of the people who left Lace on Race, for whatever reason, stayed on my personal page, either as followers or friends. And you can only imagine how that lands on me. But they do, and I get to see what they do, and I get to see them mix it up with other people sometimes, and it's like, okay, they took something. But for so many more, there are pieces of me inside you, and you better believe that there are pieces of you inside me. Every single time I do this with my hands, that's Rhonda. And then there's Delina right beside me with her eyes like this across the table at DZ Aikens. And then there's Claire with her eyes this big like this. There's Laura with the curl in the middle of her forehead, making sure that the code is clean. I am never alone. I am never alone. Whether or not I'm here or in the kitchen at my house, or on the coronavirus couch, or in my Santa Fe. I am never alone. People talk about community as a platonic ideal, but they really don't think it can really happen. You see this sometimes when in some faith traditions, when they use the New Testament and they talk about the people of Acts. It's like, well, Acts was a great experiment, but it never really worked. I'm here to tell you that it can. I'm gobsmacked. I'm gobsmacked at what we've done in the last 4 years. And so I wonder sometimes if this is going to be like in cycles, And in 2018, we were just starting up. In 2019, we almost closed our doors. 2020 was a boom year. 2021 was super funky. And so, yeah, I wonder what's going to happen in 2022. Well, I'll tell you one thing we're not going to do. We're not going to focus on eyeballs. I mean, 10,000 is a nice, respectable number. Yeah, I can say, I have 10,000 followers across all platforms. But if all you guys are doing is sitting in the stands, no, I don't. I don't have 10,000 followers. If you're not standing up and coming down from the stands and mixing it up with me on the field, I don't have you. I'd like to, but let's tell the truth about this. If 2021 has taught me anything, it's taught me that the roots have to be deep. Because if you're not leaning in and planting deep roots, your tree will topple like anybody. So we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to go bold. We're going to talk about the Catherine Norads of Twitter and Facebook and what Hesed Heart looks like and what anti-Hesed Heart looks like. We're going to do the last part of Mary's Magnificat, Mary's Manifesto. Part 2 and part 1, Catherine Norad said we're disjointed and not very good. I'll let you figure that one out. Parenthetically, I can't imagine bringing other women down. Whew. I can't. Catherine, I can't. I'm still trying to figure out the Catherine Norads of the world. And you know what? I'm glad I can't. Because if I can imagine being her, then there might be a chance that one day I could be her. And I don't want that. So I'm going to finish up the Magnificat because there's still got Christmas left. Got the tree going. And my cup, which, yay, got my cup. And so as long as I say, it's still Christmas. So I am going to do the Magnificat. We're going to be talking about the good place, talking about all this fun stuff. Maybe we get to expand this year. Maybe we'll contract even further. Maybe by the end of 22, you all will have voted with your feet and your wallets, and I will be working third shift at the Del Taco on Massachusetts and Broadway, and y'all won't have to look at me anymore. But I think I have a lot more to say, and I need 400 of you, not 10,000, although it'd be nice. 400 of you to stand with me as I do it. This is a love letter, but as usual, my love comes with exhortation and sometimes encouragement and sometimes rebuke. But this is a love letter. I am so grateful to each and every one of you, how you have taught me, how I have inculcated and internalized every one of you, marrow deep. Here's the woman I say I want to be. Here's the woman I actually am. And in 2021, I learned some hard lessons. But it inched me closer to this woman. And for that, count it all joy. Count it all joy. To every woman who has challenged me and who has knocked me on the ropes sometimes, for every Catherine Norad, for every Annie, for every Chris, and yes, for every Holly, I am a different woman than I was in February. Yes. When we talk about virtue activism, and that's what we're talking about here. This is a sort of virtue activism. We are talking about what is the good. And whenever people talk about virtue of any sort, you become an automatic target. An automatic target. And I knew that in 2018. If I was definitely going to not just talk about how many flags you should raise and how loud your voice should be, if I was going to be talking about internal work, then I was setting myself up. People will look at me and see someone to emulate, and I better be really, really, really worthy of emulation. But people will also find ways to nitpick or to say that I'm disingenuous or to call me a cult leader. And by the way, Catherine, you got to think of some new words. 2 years in, it's getting a little old. I'm older than most of you on this platform. And I consider myself something of your big sister. And I'm grateful that you trust me enough to walk with you and that you pick up where I leave off. And we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about this, what your responsibility is. Because as much as I am a big sister to you, you are a big sister to someone else. And are you meeting that challenge? Are you meeting that responsibility? That's why I'm talking a lot about what it looks like and why, as well, I'm talking about how the sausage is made here, not just here, but also in other nonprofit or non-governmental sectors, because you need to see how the sausage is made. You need to see whether or not this is something worth internalizing, marrow deep, and then putting out in the world. And we make good sausage here at Lace-On Race. This is not, just the scraps that we sweep up off the floor and stuff into a casing. Absolutely not. Me and my delinquents in training give you good, nourishing food. I mean, you get to see me, my mug, holding up the sausage and trying to sell you the sausage. Kind candor! 6 tenants! Oh, but behind the scenes, that work is pristine. I have no illusions. It is not my hands, not only my hands that are on these sausages. It's each and every one of you. Each and every one of you brings your own seasoning to the sausage. And by the way, that includes the Hollies and the Annies and the Chris's and the Catherine Norads who think that they're putting arsenic in the sausage. They didn't. So it's almost time for me to go, to leave the center, to go home, to pop open another wine cooler. It's been quite the long day, and think about 2021, what I want to talk about in 2022, and most of all, think about you all. The leadership team, naturally, all of them behind me in a line, but also you, hopefully on the field with me in 2022. Most women would have walked away from me after Holly. Most women did, including a lot of you, because if you're still just sitting in the stands and all I have is your eyeballs, I lost you. It's weird. People ask if I cry, and I'm not usually that much of a crier. But I can tell you now that it's 2022 and 2021, I cried every day. Sometimes audibly, but when you live by yourself and it's like, that's just silly. But I've cried internally a lot. Sometimes it's been tears of frustration. Sometimes it's been tears of abandonment. When half of your donor base leaves you, baby, you better frackin' believe that you cry. Sometimes it's out of humiliation every single time I hear Catherine Norad tell me I'm a cult leader, and even though I know what's true, but even a few of you believe that. Oh, honey, I feel it. But then sometimes I cry for different reasons. I cry when I wake up to a notification from Vicki that I have yet another one-on-one abiding time. Sometimes I cry when I go and I see Laura's handiwork and I see it's every line of code, the Hesed in every line of code. I see Rebecca and Julie walking so strongly. So strongly. sometimes with losses that are incalculable, and still they give me their best every day. And I see all of you. I see you in private messages. I see you on the boards. I see all of that. I see some of my staff confronting demons every bit as debilitating as my own, and they still show up. And I'm grateful, eternally grateful. And that means I have deep resolve. If I wind up at the end of 2022 with $19.99 in my bank account, Catherine NORAD, count it all joy. If I have 10,000 of you at a Lace on Race Live, 1,000 of you on a Zoom call, 100 of you at a luncheon, or 10 of you on December 31st, 2022, count it all joy. I will not waver. I will be relentless, and I want to walk with you. And for if nothing else, you guys should stick around to see what new wigs I found. I love you guys. This is my love letter to you all. Let's start 2022 off strong.